Hello, and welcome to our tutorial of Chapter 4. This provides you with the foundation for your understanding of syntactic theory. In this chapter, we will be reviewing structural relations. By the end of this tutorial, you should be able to identify parts of a tree, identify dominants in a tree, distinguish exhaustive dominance from immediate dominance, identify precedence in a tree, identify C-command in a tree, distinguish symmetric C-command from asymmetric C-command, and finally, discuss grammatical relations in a tree. Parts of a tree. Now let's move on to parts of a tree. We are going to make this as simple as possible, as we are going to start with an abstract tree, and later we will replace it with labels that you are already familiar with. These lines are called branches. This is called a root node because it is a node with no line on top of it. These are called non-terminal nodes because they are nodes with branches underneath them. These are called terminal nodes because there are no branches underneath them. Now notice that the labels are in red. Domination. Domination is a specific type of relationship between nodes. When looking at this tree, we can see that the TP dominates everything under it, including the terminal nodes. But the NP only dominates the noun, Rosie. Can you identify what the VP dominates over? Ah, great. The VP dominates over the verb gave, the two noun phrases, and the two nouns Julie Ann hugs.
General domination can be understood in more specific terms such as exhaustive domination and immediate domination. Using Carnie's abstract tree with generic labels, we could say that A exhaustively dominates over B, C, and D, which are a set of terminal nodes. A is considered to be a constituent, and the set of terminal nodes are constituents of A. We can rephrase this more elegantly as A is a constituent that exhaustively dominates over its constituents B, C, and D. Immediate domination describes smaller and more local relationships between nodes. In this tree, the TP immediately dominates the noun phrase and the verb phrase. The noun phrase immediately dominates the noun Rosie. The verb phrase immediately dominates the verb in both noun phrases, which in turn immediately dominate their respective nouns, Julie and hugs. The TP is also the mother. The noun phrases and verb phrase are daughters of the TP. They are therefore sisters. The noun Rosie is the daughter of the noun phrase. What does the verb phrase immediately dominate? Good. The verb phrase immediately dominates the verb gave in both noun phrases. At the end of this section, Carnie added new definitions of what exactly nodes are. He redefined root nodes as the node that dominates everything but is dominated by nothing. It is no node's daughter. It may be helpful to think of root nodes as the Hera of syntactic trees. He redefined a terminal node as a node that dominates nothing. It is a node that has no children. Finally, he redefined non-terminal nodes as nodes that dominate something. They can be both a mother and a daughter. Now we will discuss another kind of relation found in trees, called precedence. You can either have a vertical relationship in a tree, which is dominance, or a horizontal relationship in a tree, which is precedence. But you can never have both at the same time. In this example tree, you can see that the noun phrase precedes the verb phrase and everything that the VP dominates. However, it does not precede the TP because the TP actually dominates the NP. In other words, there is a vertical relationship between the TP and the NP, and therefore there cannot be a horizontal relationship. We can also talk about the order in which sisters appear under a tree. This is called sister precedence. However, and more importantly, there is immediate precedence, which is when a node is located directly to the left of its sister. In this sample tree, we can say that the noun phrase immediately precedes the verb phrase. The verb immediately precedes the first noun phrase. However, it does not immediately precede the second noun phrase. What does the first noun phrase immediately precede? Good. It immediately precedes the second noun phrase.
Now we're going to look at what C command is. C command describes relationships between sisters and nieces. As of right now, C command doesn't really tell us anything important, but it will when we talk about binding in Chapter 5. For C command, we return to an abstract tree with generic labels. The basic concept of C command is that a sister node C commands its sister and all descendants of that sister. In the example tree, we can see that A C commands its sister B and every descendant under B. So A C commands everything in the circle shown. And now it's your turn. What does G C command? Yes, it C commands H. Remember, C command only holds among sisters, aunts, nieces, and the descendants of their nieces. C command never holds among cousins, meaning G in the example tree does not C command E, F, I, or J. It only C commands H. C command also never holds among mothers and daughters. Remember, that's called domination. C command has two different symmetries. Symmetric C command holds between sisters. So in this example tree, A and B are sisters, and A C commands B, while B also C commands A. The same can be said for the other sisters, C and D, and E and F. What are the other symmetrical C command relationships? Great! It's G and H, and I and J. Asymmetric C command holds between aunts and nieces. This means that A asymmetrically C commands C, D, and so on, but C, D, and their descendants do not C command A. Can you find another asymmetric C command? Now we will move away from structural relations and look at grammatical relations. Let's look at some trees to describe grammatical relations. As Carnie says, a subject is an NP or CP daughter of TP. If we look at this tree, we find the NP, Rosie, as the daughter of the TP, and mark that as the subject. According to Carnie, a direct object has two definitions. The first one is either an NP or CP daughter of VP. In this example tree, we see an NP, Julie, as a daughter of the VP. So we can label this NP as the direct object. The second definition of the direct object we will see at another time. Carnie also discusses the object of a preposition as an NP daughter of PP. So in our example, we look for the mother, PP, and find its daughter, Friday, and we can mark that as the object of a preposition. In this next tree, Adam sold bananas to Rosie. We see we also have an indirect object. As Carnie states, the indirect object also has two definitions. In this tree, the direct object is again the NP daughter, bananas, of the VP. The indirect object that shows in this example is the PP daughter of the VP that is immediately preceded by the NP daughter of the same VP. That is, the PP to Rosie immediately follows its sister, NP, bananas, and they are both daughters of the same VP. Finally, let's discuss obliques. An oblique is any NP or PP in a sentence that is not a subject, direct object of a preposition, direct object, or indirect object. But Carnie reminds us that obliques are almost always marked with a preposition. In the sentence, Elisa drank whiskey with ice, the P, with ice, is not a subject, nor a direct object, or indirect object, or object of a preposition. Therefore, it's an oblique. Now it's your turn. In the sentence, Elisa stole whiskey from Rosie, the PP from Rosie, is that an oblique or an indirect object? Great, you're right. It's an oblique because from Rosie is not a subject, an indirect object, direct object, or an object of a preposition. Let's try one more. In the sentence, Elisa gave whiskey to Rosie, what's this PP? An oblique or an indirect object? Great, you're right. It's an indirect object. Good job. To wrap everything up, we reviewed the terminology of syntactic trees. Domination, which is the vertical relations between nodes. Precedence, which is the horizontal relations between nodes. How to identify C command. And finally, how to identify the grammatical relations within a tree. We hope this helps you review and understand Chapter 4 a little better. Thanks for watching.